What's happening, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of Fighting Words. I'm Bob Wankel. Anthony Sanfilippo's here as well. Playoff week, Anthony. We've made it.
We got here, Bob.
We survived 96 wins and a great season for the Phillies, in which we spent most of it, not just we, I say we as in like everyone, kind of miserable, kind of doubting if this team was good enough to be a legitimate contender. And lo and behold, they finished the season with the second best record in baseball, one off behind the Brewers. I think a top 4 run differential, one of the best starting rotations, even without one of the best pitchers in the sport mixed in. And a bunch of guys that popped 10 plus home runs too. They have a little bit of everything, Anthony. Like it's so weird. I think if this were 2022 and we had just spent the last 11 years seeing a team fail to reach the postseason, everybody right now would be in 110% on the Phillies' chances to win the World Series this year. And instead, I think recent history has put a little bit of doubt, a little bit of hesitation in everyone. But we're here now, and the Phillies are favored at most sports books in this moment to win the 2025 World Series. So I think that's what today's show is really about, because I'm going to be honest with you. Last few days, don't care. Other than Aaron Nola's start, which we need to talk about, just there's nothing there that I want to talk about, like at all.
You didn't miss anything. I could tell you, if you didn't watch much of the Phillies this past weekend, you didn't miss much. The Aaron Nola start was a positive on Friday night. But aside from that, there was nothing in the last 3 days that made you say, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's going to change how I feel about the team going into the playoffs." Nothing at all.
I mean, as you know, if you've been listening to this show, I've been kind of in limbo with my living situation. I sold a house at the very beginning of August, was with my parents for a couple months, with my family, my kids, my wife. And then we were moving over the weekend. And so the first thing that we did have done was the television went up in the living room. We had the Wi-Fi, the Comcast hookup, that whole deal. So I was watching the Phillies this weekend, but it was while I was unpacking a lot of boxes and things of that nature. So
yeah,
I haven't been totally dialed in the last 3 days.
Which is also why we didn't have a show on Friday.
Yeah, which is also why you're looking at my kitchen sink behind me right now, because the office space isn't set up. So
it's all good. It's all good. Hey, we do what we got to do, right? We do the show from wherever we got to do it. Just Friday was certainly not in the cards because you were settling on the new home, which, by the way, love the view in the kitchen there. Good view.
Yeah, it's a nice view. There's some land back there, which is nice, and so we're happy to be here.
Very bright.
Hopefully by Friday, when we're doing the game 1 preview with whoever the opponent is, we'll be in a more traditional location, more traditional office location here.
It's all good. Yeah, no, this weekend was really just about. I guess the one thing from yesterday that was worth noting is Trey Turner got back in the lineup, got a couple swings, played in the field for a few innings. I think he is as we go forward, Bob, and look at, starting Saturday and beyond, he's the X factor in my mind. Because as long as he can be what he was all season, then the Phillies are in great shape. But if he's tentative at all, or if he's late on his pitches, swings, and not making good contact, and gets a little frustrated like he's want to do in the past, then I think it changes the dynamic of the team. So I think in a lot of ways, Trey Turner is the X factor for the Phillies as they begin this October push for a world championship.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with that. It's so interesting. I am not quite there yet. Like, I'm not quite dialed into what's about to go down Saturday. And I think it's because the opponent is undefined. So it's really hard to talk about how they're going to construct the lineup against certain pitching. How are they going to play this? But what I do know is that when we sit here and talk on September 29th, and this is a thing I didn't think I was going to say as recently as 2 weeks ago, there really is no excuse for this team now as it enters this playoff not to make a run. And I would say that there are probably varying degrees of acceptability in terms of what happens. Like, should they be eliminated? And if it's because they get the Dodgers and the Dodgers starting pitching is too much and they can't handle it, I don't think anybody's going to say that's acceptable, but it wouldn't be terribly surprising. If they get bounced by the Reds, I don't even know where you go. And that's nothing against the Reds, but that's not a special team, like kudos to the Reds, but they didn't play like remarkably excellent baseball down the stretch to steal a postseason spot. It required the Mets just quite honestly, just crapping all over themselves for 3 months. It's not like the Reds are playing 750. It's not what we just saw in the AL Central, where the Guardians turned the tables on the Tigers over the last 30 days of the season. I know the Reds have some parts. They have some starting pitching. They could win this series against the Dodgers. There's no question in my mind. But, man, there is an inordinate amount of pressure on this group. And so you talk about X factors and Trey Turner being back. Like, there's no excuse. But the X factor to me is like, can the Phillies get out of their own way? Can the Phillies overcome themselves in whoever they play starting this weekend?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. And I think that there's other things too. I think we need to see a better version of Bryce Harper than we've been seeing of late. He's got to be October Bryce and not, the melancholy guy he's been for most of the season, right?
Can I ask you something about Bryce Harper? I'm glad you brought this up. He was actually going to be like, we did not talk, anybody listen to this, like we did not coordinate ahead of the show. Sometimes we'll say like, hey, what do you want to hit on? What are we going to do? We did not do that today. And one of the things that I had circled was Bryce Harper and like, will Bryce Harper be Bryce Harper? And it's sort of like a strange season for him. He finishes hitting 261, 27 homers, 75 runs batted in. He missed time. Like, had he been healthy from start to finish, maybe we're talking about a 35 home run season. Maybe the batting average is up a little bit more. And you'd say, like, good season, good player, useful player, borderline all-star type player. But he has not been a special player this season, maybe outside of like a 7-game stretch. What's going on with this guy? Like,
I don't know.
And I say this under the
He's mercurial. He's mercurial. Very, very
he's
mercurial.
Not tweeting out like the Eagles' number one wide receiver that like if you're not listened to, then slowly fade away and shrug your shoulders. And he's not putting out cryptic tweets and Instagram stories and things like that. But his impact on the field during the regular season was not as significant as we are accustomed to seeing. And I just didn't really get the feeling like there was a lot of energy or like a lot of fire or a lot of, am I crazy? Like, is this just like you turn on the radio today and you hear everybody talking about the Eagles and they're 4-0, but AJ Brown and like, are you tired of the drama and enough's enough with this? And obviously, like, these aren't the same players. Like, these are two totally different guys. They're not doing the exact same thing. But it does feel like things are just a little bit off with this guy. Like, are we going to find out that he's hurt? Is he declining? Is he just banged up because the injuries over time have taken their toll? Is it going to be simply that he can just turn it back on come Saturday? The lights are brighter, and here he comes. Because if he can, then nobody's going to care about the regular season.
1,000%. So, like, I think he is frustrated with his own production. Like, I think he looks at what the season that he had and felt he underwhelmed himself, right? And understandably so, right? These players are perfectionists. They want to be the best in the game at all times. I mean, he had to remind himself. We remember we talked about that, coming out of San Francisco, and then that following week where he said it a second time, where he said, I'm one of the best players in the game. Like, he was reminding himself that was the case.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that there's been a little bit of that. I wonder if there's a little bit of doubt that has creeped into his mind a little bit. Right. And so because of that, we need to see Bryce be Bryce. We need to see Bryce have a big moment. It doesn't have to be a home run to win a game, but like just have a moment this week, next weekend, and into the next first 5 games or whatever it is that they're going to play. Have a moment. Have one of those Bryce Harper. So you can sit there and go, "Oh my God, that's why he's who he is, right? We just need that a little bit. Otherwise, he's just another guy in the lineup.
Yeah,
right?
it's just so strange. Like his last 7 games, he's 6 for 26, no home runs, hitting 231 with a 564 OPS. Like it just wasn't a good finish for him. But then I look at it, and by the way, he missed a couple games in there as well because he was sick. And you almost, to me, my antenna always goes up. I'm not like a major conspiracy theorist, but like, is he dealing with some other things too, where they were happy to sit him down? Like I don't know, but he finishes the season, like I said, 840, 844 OPS, 261. Like that's not bad. We've seen him go through seasons where he was actually even more underwhelming than this. Like you go back to 2016, he played 147 games. He played almost a full season. And in that year, he had an 814 OPS. He only hit 243. Like it's not that you can just plug him in and expect him to be MVP every year. Like a guy's entitled to have a little bit of a down year. It wasn't like it was a disaster. But I just didn't get the feeling like we were watching an impact player. And when you start to look at the Phillies and what this might look like in the next week or hopefully weeks, as far as people listening to the show are concerned, you need more than that. Like you need the Bryce Harper that kind of goes on the bender, goes on the heater. You need a guy that brings a little bit of a jolt, like a little bit of energy, strikes some fear into opponents. Because if you talk about Trey Turner being an X factor, okay, is the Phillies bullpen good enough? Like maybe, like it's okay, it's fine. This rotation, like I don't know what I'm going to get. I'm pretty sure I know what I'm going to get out of Christopher Sanchez. Do you know for sure what you're getting out of Ranger Suarez right now? I don't.
Nope.
I think a start that he had against the Mets last year would be I would not be surprised if we saw a very similar start, where he gets himself into some trouble. Hopefully he's able to work out of it. Like, I don't know what we're going to get out of him. Don't know what we're going to get out of Jesus Luzardo. And you start looking up and down this lineup and you're like, all right, well, Trey Turner needs to be Trey Turner. And yeah, like guys like Bader and Stott and Bohm, like they've been better here in the second half. And there's a lot of reason for optimism about how deep the lineup is. But to me, it comes back to this guy needing to be that guy that we expect him to be. And I know it's an oversimplification. Bryce Harper could go 0 for 10 in a 3-game stretch against whoever starting next weekend, and they could still advance. But like they can't go much further.
No, you're right.
This isn't about winning the NLDS. It's about winning the World Series now. And
yes, yes,
we need more.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think, and he'll never say this out loud, and he was asked this question. I think it was asked in Arizona. I think it was in Arizona. But he was asked what it's like to, be the third guy this year. Because, Schwarber was obviously he's MVP candidate. I bet Turner gets down ballot votes, like, 5th place votes, things like that. So Bryce is kind of the third guy this year. And he's like, oh, it doesn't matter as long as we win. Like, I don't care. But does it bother him a little bit? Well, I think it might. Bob. And like I said, he'll never say it. He's never going to come out and say that. He's very well trained in what he says publicly. Like he's smart.
Well, do you think that he blames other people for that, or do you think he's solely blaming himself? He's frustrated with himself for that being.
No, 1,000%. He's not a point a finger at another guy kind of person. I think he's pointing the finger at himself a little bit. And yeah, I think it bothers him. I think it bothers him that he's not carrying the load, so to speak.
So what do you fear? So there's two different ways to look at that. The optimist would say, like, this is a guy who has been one of the brightest of stars in the sport for a decade. And we know that there's a special, element to him. Like he is a guy that has risen to big moments over time.
Yeah.
Do we think that that's going to work as a motivator for him? Like, all right, I know that this has not been the year, and I know that I am kind of the third wheel or the third cog when you go down the pecking order here. So I'm going to take this opportunity, and I am going to rise to the challenge. And when it's all said and done, it will be Bryce Harper and the Phillies. And Bryce Harper and the Phillies won a World Series, not the Phillies and role player Bryce Harper.
Right.
is that what's going to happen, or is it going to be? And we've seen him do this, and some of it is just kind of I don't want to say or fully attribute it to this, but sometimes it feels like he tries to do too much. And is he going to squeeze so hard come Saturday that it's just more of the same, where, he goes outside the zone, he gets himself out. He's just trying to make up for lost time, trying to make up for what was an okay year. Like, will he try to do too much?
It's a great question. Smy Guy says he trusts Bryce to figure it out. I tend to think I do as well. I tend to think I've always, every time he's gone through a rough patch, not just this season, but in his time here, and you go back and listen to any episode where we've talked about that, I've been the guy who said, he'll figure it out. He's Bryce Harper. Like, it's what he does. Like, this is who he is. He's a superstar for a reason. Like, he'll figure it out. So I tend to lean on that side with Smy Guy. I do trust him to figure it out. But this is the first time where I've sat there and wondered if the possibility exists that he can't figure it out. And I think that's where I am with him, right? It's like, I still believe that he will figure it out. But the first time I'm thinking that maybe he gets to a point where he doesn't.
Well, I know that there's a lot of concern about they don't play this week. They won't have the momentum in a DS. We've seen this story before, and I think the Mets beat them last year because the Mets beat them last year. I don't think it's because they sat on their hands. And Bryce Harper himself talked about how you want the bye. As that conversation pertains specifically to Harper and this being an older team in general, is it possible that 32-year-old Bryce Harper, soon to be 33-year-old Bryce Harper, could benefit from a few days off here and kind of resetting himself after a year in which he certainly went through things physically, some of which we know about, some of which I think we're a little bit unsure about, and some of which I don't think we ever heard about at all. So if you're trying to kind of slant positively on it, I think that I would much rather go in without the momentum into this series, and I'd rather get guys like Bryce Harper, a guy like JT Realmuto, who took shots off his hand this past week. Like, give them the reset, give them a few days.
Not only that, Bob. I'll tell you what the advantage this year to me is to having the bye, and not just that. I think that's 1,000% part of it for sure. Getting a lot of these guys healthy because it's been a slog for them this year. They've battled through a lot, right? Physically. And so I'm on board with that. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they're going to play the Dodgers. Go out on that limb.
All right. I want to do postseason predictions in a little bit, but you beat me to it. Yeah.
I'll go out on that limb. I think there's an advantage to seeing how the Dodgers are going to utilize their pitching in playoff games. And really for the Phillies to have an idea. Because right now, if you ask me, or I would say if you ask the Phillies, if you went and asked Rob Thompson, or you went and asked the players, you asked Dave Dombrowski, if you ask them, what are the Dodgers going to do pitching-wise in the playoffs? I don't think anybody knows. Like, because their bullpen is so bad that they're going to have to fill it with starting pitchers. Yeah. The question is, which starting pitchers are going to start? And which starting pitchers are going to pitch out of the bullpen. That's what nobody knows. And I think that getting an opportunity, even if it's only for 2 games, to see how they use those pitchers will benefit the Phillies. Because when it comes down to it, let's the Phillies won 4 out of 6 against the Dodgers this year. Okay, fine, whatever. 3 of them were in the beginning of the season. I don't think that those matter at all. I think when you look at it, there was only 2 games that they played against each other that mattered for both teams. And it was the knockdown, drag out 2 games in LA when the Phillies clinched the NL East and then won the series to pretty much, they didn't lock it up that day, but to pretty much say, all right, we got you. We got the bye and you don't, right? Like, so that those 2 games and the Phillies won those 2, those were heavyweight fights. And there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of managing in those games. And I thought that the buttons that Dave Roberts pushed in those games were not good. I thought he mismanaged those games, which makes me wonder if he's going to stick to that against the Phillies or if they try something completely different because it failed against the Phillies. So that's why I think that there's some real benefit for the Phillies to sit back and watch that series. Look, if the Reds pull off an upset, the Reds pull off an upset. Okay, fine. But the reality of it is you're focusing on the Dodgers. You're thinking about the Dodgers, and any little advantage that you can get on them is a good thing.
You obviously like the Dodgers. Odds makers like the Dodgers. Of the 4 wild card series that we'll see this week, the Dodgers are the most significant favorite right now. DraftKings are minus 245 to win this wild card series over the Reds and advance. It looks like it'll be Hunter Green for Cincinnati in game 1. And right now, though, the Dodgers official site doesn't list it. Sportsbooks are showing Blake Snell as the Dodgers game 1 starter. So, and in that game, the Dodgers are a minus 208 money line favorite right now. And not that this is a betting podcast, but I like to just put a little context behind, the way that at least markets are treating these games right now. Said differently, the Dodgers are a significant postseason favorite here this week over Cincinnati. Let's talk about what the Phillies are going to do. Let's work under the premise right now because we'll have plenty of time to revisit this, obviously, when we know for sure on Friday. But let's assume that it is the Dodgers. What does this look like for the Phillies? Do you come with the 3 lefties and pray? Like, how does this look?
That's what the Phillies will do. They will go with the 3 lefties. Do I think that Aaron Nola and Walker Buehler are piggybacking both Suarez and Luzardo? I do. I really do. I think that that's kind of what the Phillies are going to look to do because the Dodgers do the bottom of their lineup. They do mix and match guys who's starting, who's not. Like Muncy doesn't play against lefties, right? They were playing Kike Hernandez at third base against lefties. So maybe, you start Suarez and Luzardo and you got those righties in the lineup and now all of a sudden it's the 4th inning. And if you're the Phillies, you switch pitchers and you go to a right-handed guy who can go multiple innings. You force Dave Roberts to make a decision. Do I keep those guys in or do I flip them now and then give the Phillies the matchup advantage later when they can bring in Tanner Banks, Matt Strahm to face those lefties or whoever to face righties, right? Whatever the case might be. So right. I do think that the Phillies are going to go with the 3 lefties. I'm not convinced that Suarez or Luzardo are going to be let go long. They've done this to Ranger in the past, right? Remember they did against the Braves in that one playoff game where they didn't even tell him that they were going to pull him. Like he thought he was going to go long, and then they pull him, and then they bullpenned it, matched up against the Braves the rest of the way, and it was kind of a masterclass plan. That really was a very well thought out, well managed plan there. I think you're going to see similar things, maybe not to that extreme, but I think you're going to see similar things out of the Phillies in a matchup against the Dodgers.
I tend to agree. I mean, look, the Dodgers are a top 7 offense, independent of what side a pitcher's coming from, but they are the best team in the National League against lefties by way of OPS this season. So, I mean, it's tough. But if you're the Phillies, what really are you to do other than put your 3 best guys on the mound at the start of a game and maybe then get creative behind it? I just don't. I think if you the way I would look at this and the way I expect the Phillies to look at this is, okay, we need to give this our best shot. And while matchups do matter and we want to try to split our way through this, the 3 guys that if we start in succession, Sanchez, Suarez, Luzardo, and we lose, then we just weren't good enough.
Right.
If you introduce Buehler, if you introduce Nola, who, yes, like he was encouraging over the weekend, but like, let's be real here. Like that was one start against the Twins. I wouldn't put too much stock in that. If you go that route and you say, all right, we're going to break up the lefties. Let's try Aaron at home even in game 2. So that way he's not out in LA. Like, I don't know that you could live with that. Like, I think a fan is going to be pissed and call for blood no matter what. And what the fans are upset about in the grand scheme of things doesn't really matter. But I would have a hard time if I were the Phillies decision makers and I got bounced saying, like, we didn't put our 3 best guys out there, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, no, that's right. No, I think it's very fair to look at it that way. And look, I mean, the one thing I will say about Nola's start on Friday, and I know a couple people have poo-pooed it to me, like, well, it was against the Twins. It was against the Twins. The very next day, that same Twins lineup smacked the ball around against Ranger Suarez, right? So let's do we look at Nola's start and say, yeah, it was good, but it's the Twins, or do we look at Ranger Suarez's start and go, oh, that's a concern. Like, like what do we do? Like, you can't have it both ways. So no, I think that's exactly what it's going to be. And the way it sounded like talking to Rob down there this week was that they were going to do just that. Like Noel is going to be on the playoff roster for the division series. So is Walker Buehler. They're both going to be on the roster, and neither one of them is going to be coming into a game with runners on base as a reliever. I think that they're going to prepare like you would as a starter, just change the time that they would prepare, and then get ready to come in and pitch multiple innings in the 4th, 5th, and 6th. Like really, I think it's like one time through the order for one starter, and then one time through the order for the other guy. That's really what I think it's going to be, and then turn it over to the bullpen. Just my guess, and no one ever knows. They don't share their strategy, but that's my guess is what they would do.
Let me ask you this: it's 3-2 in Game 1. It is the 8th inning, and the Dodgers have 2-3-4 up. The Phillies have not used their highest leverage arms at this point in the game. Who's coming into the game?
Well, 2-3-4 would be Mookie, Teoscar, and Freddie Freeman. So you got 2 righties,
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then Freddie Freeman, probably David Robertson in that spot. But if Ohtani's up, it's probably Strahm.
No.
And I know what you're thinking, where you're leading this question. Do you go 2 innings with Duran?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Isn't it amazing that like 3 months ago you start to envision, here come the Phillies, 96 wins. Here's how they got there. And like Kerkering is not even a thought. Like 2 righties and then the reverse splits where that pitch is supposed to play against lefties. Like that's supposed to be.
Last 4 batters, Kerkering's face, he struck them all out.
Yeah.
Came in with runners on base on Saturday and got a strikeout. And
Look, the reality of it is, and again,
yeah,
there's surviving a DS, and then there's making a World Series run. And if they're going to do it, like I just said, you're going to need Harper to make a World Series run. I believe that. Like unless you get an out-of-body experience from someone else, like unless Alec Boehm just goes bananas and he hits 450 for 3 weeks, like you're going to need someone to go absolutely insane to cover should these things not happen. But when I look at the Phillies' blueprint to winning a championship, and this is scary to say, and a lot of people aren't going to want to hear this, but I actually think that you have to have an effective Kerkering to do it. Like I don't think that you can just Duran, Robertson, Strahm your way through this, because you talk about bridging the middle innings with the Nolas and Walker Buehlers, and like, I think that will happen, but like, there's going to be a key out to get in the 6th inning of a game, or in maybe certain situations, a pocket of the lineup comes up in the 7th inning, and you don't want to go to those other guys quite yet. You're going to need him to close the door.
I think it's going to be more important for them to have an extra reliable bullpen arm if they get past the DS. So the beauty of the DS is you only have 2 games played on back-to-back days.
Yep.
So the relievers are always available, right? There's not a game where a reliever is not available, because you have game 1, day off, game 2, day off, games 3 and 4, day off, game 5. So like the DS, everybody's available every game. So that's, you could get by with massaging it a little bit there. It's when you get to the NLCS and then you're playing 2, day off 3, day off 2. That's when it's like, okay, we're going to need another arm to be good out there.
Well, so then I'll return to where I ultimately was also getting, in addition to Kerkering. But do you, if you're the Phillies, say, let's go try to get 2 innings out of Duran? And I would tell you that I'd be hesitant to do that. I don't know that
he's done it a few times this year.
He has done it a few times this year, but I guess it kind of draws back to like, if you don't win, and you don't win because you don't use your best guy, I could see the Phillies being open to criticism. Like, what are you messing around with Kerkerings and the Robertsons in the world? Just go to your guy. He's your dude. But I will say, like, yes, he is by far their best option. But this has not exactly been smooth sailing with him. And I just don't know what that looks like. You get a key out to end the 8th. Now he's got to reset and come back out for the 9th. Like, and he has not been super crisp here down the stretch.
I would say, here's how I would view it, Bob. I think that there could be a time that they will do that in this postseason, but I don't think it's going to be a regular thing that they do.
Yeah.
Right. Like they may need a 4th out or 5 outs from Duran at some point, but I don't think it's going to be like we're going to just give him 2 innings every game and just figure, cross our fingers and hope for the best. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
That's how I view it. I do want to get to a few comments we have a bunch of comments here, which is great. But there was 2 that were my favorite though. Tyler DeMuro said I'm just here for Bob to rip the Mets. And then later on, we had a guy who showed up. Here's Ryan. He said, "Did I miss Bob burying the Mets yet?" So I mean, I
didn't know that was like the draw of the show.
Well, I mean, it's got the draw of the show. I mean, were you hate watching yesterday?
Yeah, I was more interested in the Mets' demise over the weekend than anything that the Phillies were doing, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. And it was unbelievable. Let's say Gary Cohen and Keith Hernandez and all these guys like put the bow on it, like the eulogy of that team. What a gutless bunch of losers. Like, and I know you sniffed it out. You're really the guy that should be doing this because you're the one that was calling it from the tip. But just a 3.5 month death march. Like the best thing about it is that, and I know that like Twitter or X isn't real life, but it's funny to watch Mets fans. Like I've seen this, like I'm like, well, what's the reactions? And I don't just mean like that Frank the Tank guy from Barstool, but I'm like actual Mets fans. Like, what does this look like? What are these people thinking right now? And you have the certain group that's going after Cohen. Like you promised us that we'd be a winner. We're 5 years into this thing. It's been largely embarrassing. A DS win over the Phillies was like the apex of this 5-year tenure thus far. But there are people out there that are actually working themselves into the belief that, you know what? It was never really about this season. It was about bridging it towards the future. You had a run last year. Look at all these young arms coming up. McLean. We're going to continue to spend and be aggressive. It's not a big deal. You went out and spent $1 bazillion this year to kind of, you passed the Phillies last year in the race. And then this year was about staying on top and kind of dropping the hammer. We're the New York Mets. We're Steve Cohen. We have all the money in the friggin' world. We signed Juan Soto to a 27-year contract. And we're going to beat the shit out of everybody in this division for the rest of the 2020s, the 2030s. Juan Soto is going to have 5 rings. It's going to be awesome. And you did that. You lost 2 out of 3 to the Marlins with all the chips on the table. And in 2 of those losses, you couldn't have looked any more pathetic. They looked disinterested on Friday night. Yep. They didn't even look like they wanted to play on Friday night. So enjoy McLean and enjoy the future. Talk yourselves into 26 being different. It's not going to be different.
This is the content we pay for, Bob PSU Flyers says. Tyler,
you hear me. You hear how pumped up I am saying that. Like, imagine actually caring about that team beyond wanting to see them fail. Like, imagine being a good fan. Can you imagine if that was the Phillies? What we'd be doing right now? Oh my God.
Tyler says Eagles into the Mets collapse into Micah versus Dallas was an all-time hate watch day.
Yeah.
And then Robert Mallard,
second half offense into the hate watch too, actually.
And then Robert Mallard says, I've been listening to New York Sports Talk and Mets podcasts all day. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, look, like, you know what? The thing is, to be honest, like, to be perfectly objective and in fairness, like, the Mets have some good things. Like,
yes,
they have some young pitching that I would feel good about. Like, I would talk myself into that being a positive for the future, no question. But at the end of the day, it's hard because you're the Mets. And no matter what you have in terms of all of your parts, you're probably going to fuck it up.
Yeah.
How's that? I hope that's
great. And as SJK says, I'm usually not the Schadenfreude type, but I'm loving the Mets right now. And I know you gave me credit, right? Because I said it from the jump that I didn't believe in the Mets at all this year. I don't know. I was wrong about the Braves, right? I believed in the Braves and they fell apart, right? But so I guess I was right about the Mets. But the thing that I didn't like about the Mets, and this is what I'm going to find the most interesting thing with them as we do their play taps and on their 2025 season right now. Like, I think that their GM sucked this year, David Stearns.
Yeah,
I really do, Bob. Like,
He's very well regarded. I was afraid when they made that hire that he'd be the guy that it's like everything he touches turns to gold. And his trade deadline was an absolute disaster.
Well, I want to go back to the offseason. So they make the run.
Yeah.
They make the run that they do, right? Last year, get to the NLCS, the whole OMG stuff, right? Great. All right, exciting. Then they signed Soto. So now you're like, all right, the Mets are all in at this point. And then they came into the season with a starting staff of Frankie Montas, Sean Manaea, Senga, what's his name? David Peterson. They went out and they got Clay Holmes and turned him into a starting pitcher. Like they kind of mishmashed it. Like they didn't go get a guy. And then once they started to fall apart in June, the pitching, rather than go and get the starting pitcher that he so desperately needed, which the best guy that was traded was Merrill Kelly, who was pretty good for the Texas Rangers, after getting traded there. He instead said, nah, we'll turn it over to 3 rookies. They'll be fine. And we'll just bolster the bullpen. And all the bullpen guys, except for Rogers, sucked. Like,
in a way, like it's not a totally pure comparison, but it's sort of like because the 2019 Phillies didn't have the run to like precede it, but in a way, it sort of feels like that to an extent. There's like a lot of hype, there's a lot of optimism. You go out and you get Harper, you go out and get Real Muto, and you have an adult lineup all of a sudden after years of just crap, and it wasn't met with the necessary starting pitching to be a true contender. Like it just wasn't. And you're relying on a lot of unproven parts and washed up vets to kind of make it work. And then they got serious, then became Wheeler, and then more pitching developed, and they've gotten to where they are now. And that's the only thing I could say for the Mets is that you go like, hey, they wouldn't be the first team in the history of the world to go out and make a huge splash, big money splash, and then not get the immediate result. They have work to do, though. I mean, it was a bad offseason. And like a lot of teams, I think that they got a little bit caught up in their own success and a little bit of their own, the magic of what they did for a little bit in October last year. And I think that may have influenced the way that they proceeded in the offseason. And what's really weird is when you go back, like if you just jump on Fangraphs, look at the starting pitching through the first 2 months of the season, the Mets were top 3 in every single category. I mean, it was like, I was saying at the time, I'm like, it's like voodoo magic. It's like dark arts. Like, how are they even doing this? And then, the inevitable, I guess, what you felt was inevitable happened.
Yeah, and in game 162, and I'm going to take a shot at their manager, Carlos Mendoza, here for a minute.
You fired him?
Well, here's the thing, Bob. Game 162, you have to win it to make the postseason. You have to win. And you basically bullpen game it. And not only do you bullpen game it, but you're bringing Edwin Diaz in the 5th inning because you're so desperate. I know they're down 4 at that point, and they want to keep it right there. But you have nobody else. What if you come back and tie that game? Who's closing that out for you? Right? Like, I mean, you couldn't have a starter ready to go that could get you 5 innings at bare minimum on the game that you needed to win the most at the end of the year?
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. I think the only reason why I'm not all in just like terms of leveling them is because of what awaits the Phillies in a little less than a week from now, because you can celebrate the Mets' demise, but the Phillies are going to have some really hard questions to answer themselves if they don't play well in a 5-game series. You could be looking at massive changes. And for whatever joy that you felt from the Mets collapse, it will be overshadowed by the disappointment and probably disgust that you'll have for this Phillies team. And so it's like,
I agree with you. One other thing I wanted to point out, and we basically said earlier, or at least I did, that the Dodgers are going to just win this series against the Reds. You pointed out the odds. Greg Jean does make a good point. He says Green and Lodolo have shown dominance in the past. Don't count them out, especially in a 3-game series. And Greg, you're 100% right. Like this is what the thing is about baseball and the way that their playoffs are lined up now. There's no better sport than that is the ultimate just get in and everybody has a shot than Major League Baseball. Just get in and everybody has a shot. It really is. It really is the case. all it takes is one of those games, one of those guys to have a great game, and then you're in a 1-game playoff against the Dodgers.
Yeah, and you
right?
do the why not us? Why can't us? You have all the pressure. You're the defending champs. You have the massive payroll. We're just the Reds, and why not? And then that's where it gets scary, right? Because no matter what happens this week, you will have to, as a Phillies fan, sit and watch it. And you're either going to get the mighty Dodgers, who have all this starting pitching that will now spill over into the bullpen, and they can probably wipe out 2-3 innings at a time. They have Mookie Betts, who was terrible for the most of the season, who now looks a lot more like Mookie Betts. You have Shohei Ohtani and everything that comes with that. And you're going to have a cartoon animation of Shohei Ohtani being up in 6 batters. Don't go anywhere. He's coming. Like, you're going to have to deal with all that. Like the Joe Davis, all that stuff. Well, actually, they don't have the DS, right?
No.
Okay, there you go. So you wouldn't have to deal with it in the DS. So, that's scary. That's a scary proposition. You got to respect what the Dodgers are from a talent perspective. It's going to be tough. I don't know that I suspect that the Phillies would not be favored in that series at the start if they play the Dodgers. I don't think that they'll be a massive underdog, but I'm almost certain the Dodgers will be favored in that series. You get the Reds, and it's going to be like the ultimate, here we go again, similar to what we saw with the Mets. They're not that good. You're the better team. You have a home field advantage, Red October. It's hard to win at the bank, all that shit. But you're going to be scared because that Reds team is going to be like, why not? Well, let's take these guys
money.
out.
Yeah, house money with the Reds.
Yeah. And let's all just do ourselves a favor, like public service announcement. Go down there this weekend or Saturday and Monday and all in, loud, do the thing. One of the best environments in sports, certainly in baseball. But let's just stop the nobody comes into the bank and beats the Phils in Red October. Yes, they do, actually. In fact, they've lost 3 of their last 4 games at home during Red October. So you can impact the game, but they've got to play.
Correct. Hey, Bob, Denise Snyder likes the beard look. Says you should keep it.
All right. I like that.
Just thought I'd throw that out there. It's okay. The comments that we get, so whatever. Just
that's in the 7 years that we've done this show on YouTube. That's the first time anyone's ever said that I looked nice.
Yeah, see that? Keep the beard.
White, a little salt and pepper coming in here.
Yeah, you're starting to show some age. I like it. I'm not the old guy anymore.
This weekend, moving, by the way, as everyone knows, sucks. Even if you move into a house that you're really excited about, and waited for a long time. I think that the last few days have aged me considerably. So, but yeah, man, it's just this. Right now, in this moment, this show, when we get to Friday, it's going to be these are the matchups. We got the opponent. Come on, guys, finish this damn thing. And I think that I'll get there. I know a lot of people listening to this right now probably are already there. I'm more in the evaluation mode right now. I'm not all amped up. And then what that kind of does is lead me to this question. Can we make some picks? Can we make some picks about this week? And then I don't want to go any further than that quite yet, but what it'll then mean for the Phillies. You want to wait until Friday to do a Phillies pick, or do you want to do it today?
Whatever you want. I'm ready either way. I'm not confident with my picks this year.
Yeah, really I don't feel great about it either. So I would just say right in advance, especially to the one person who was 2 weeks ago when I picked the Phillies to lose 2 out of 3. I forget who they were playing.
Yeah.
And they won 2 out of 3. The person was lighting me up on Twitter. Yes, these picks will almost certainly be wrong, but let's go ahead and do this. I love the first series, and I am such a contrarian when it comes to picking games. So you get Detroit and Cleveland. What a series. Here we are, except it's the AL Central champion Cleveland Guardians playing the wild card winners, the Detroit Tigers. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, kudos to the Guardians because they did something that's never been done before.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And it overcome a 15.5 game deficit to win a division, right? So that's unbelievable, right? That's really, really unbelievable. And the Tigers were shit for a long period of time.
Yes.
I'm taking the Tigers.
Yeah, so am I. Yeah. I mean, look, you got Scooble game 1. They're a minus 170 favorite. What does that tell you? After all of this, After
Yes.
all of this, the Tigers are a massive road favorite because that guy's on the mound. Now, that being said, last week, when they were still in control, Scuba was great for 5 innings. I think it was the 6th he got into. He tried to field a ball and throw it backwards between his legs. It went out in the right field. The ball didn't leave the infield. The Guardians scored 3 runs. Like, they won the game. They beat him. I just am not picking that to happen 2 times in a week, essentially. I don't think it's going to happen twice in the same week. I'll take the Tigers to win game 1 and springboard themselves, because you'll see Scuba twice if it goes 5, and I think that that's probably the difference.
Well, they won't go 5.
I'm
They'll
sorry,
only go 3.
I'm sorry. We're in a wild card. Okay,
Yes.
my bad. 3-game series. I think you win game 1. You find a way to split the other 2, and you win. I actually think the Tigers, to be honest with you, I think Tigers are going to win it in 2.
Yeah, I like Detroit. I think that Detroit at their best is one of the better teams in the American League. Now, they haven't played like it for a while.
So what do you make of that, though? Like, they are, and they were. And I mean, like, if you were to grade regular seasons and stop on August 30th, they would be probably like one of 2 A+. Them and the Brewers would probably be the 2 teams that you would grade as an A++, like just in terms of expectation to how they played and how consistently well they played. And then you have September happen. Like, do you think that they are spooked going into this series, or do you think that, hey, we're here, we know we're good, we have the best pitcher in the sport, maybe outside of Paul Skeens, going for us in game 1, we've got this? Like,
yeah, I feel like that. I think that they're finally going to wake up. They didn't hit. That was the problem with them. I mean, they didn't hit for 2 months. But I like their pitching, and I like their bullpen. I think that they have a solid bullpen. And I think that they're a team that I think people are forgetting about Detroit. Yeah. And I think that they could surprise some people and make another run again like they did last year.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. All right, let's go to the well, actually, I guess we can stay in the American League. Here's a series that I know is like great and everyone's super excited. Rivalry renewed. I don't care about the series at all. I just don't. Yankees, Red Sox, who cares? Go ahead, like, make your pick. I don't care. I think both stink too, by the way.
I think that the Yankees are overrated. I think that the Red Sox, they have what it takes to beat the Yankees. Like, you know, you're going to throw Garrett Crochet game 1 against the Yankees. He's like the second best pitcher in the American League this year, right?
Ace, Max Fried, who I was never go back and look at our like Braves playoff things, and I was always like, this guy does not. I know he's good. I don't care. I'm not scared of him.
Right. So I think that this is a 3-game series, but I think that the Yankees figure out a freaking way to win.
Okay.
And then they'll advance. Although can Boston beat them? Yes, they can. But I think the Yankees win.
Okay. Now over to the National League, you have the Padres at the Cubs. Fun matchup here. To me, this might be one of the more compelling matchups, frankly. I like the Padres.
They're the better team overall. They have a better lineup, better bullpen. They don't have starters. Their starting pitching is very, very suspect. I know Nick Pivetta is their ace, okay? And he's had a great year.
My guy.
But it's Nick Pivetta, okay? You know, Michael King, he's been okay since he's come back, but he hasn't, you know, he's only been back for what, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, whatever it is. Okay, but beyond that, they don't really have a third guy that's been good. Like Cease has not been good. Darvish hasn't been good. Like, they don't really have that third guy. Mm-hmm. So, like, and I think that the Cubs have enough on the offensive side.
Magic, yeah.
I think they have enough on the offensive side. And Cubs don't have great pitching either. And of course, they lose Cade Horton. That doesn't help them at all. But I think they only need a couple starters for the first series. And so with that said, I'm with the Cubs. I think the Cubs are going to take that series. I think it's another 3-game series, but I like Chicago.
Okay. And then obviously you have the Reds and Dodgers, and we already know how you feel, and I'm with you. I think that the Dodgers will win that series. So
yeah.
Let's just go to the Phillies Dodgers. What do you have there?
This is the toughest possible matchup for the Phillies. Yeah. Because it's the one team that I don't think that they are superior to. Right? I think that they're on a level playing field with the Dodgers. and I'm really having a hard time deciding which way I would go. I almost really want to watch the Dodgers play the Reds and make a determination after that, like what I think. Because I do think that the Phillies can beat the Dodgers. I think if there's anybody in the National League who can beat the Dodgers, I think it's the Phillies. Much like I felt in years past, if there was anybody who could beat the Braves in the National League, it was the Phillies. They match up well against that team. I do have concern, though, after we were out in LA and they couldn't hit the three starting pitchers that they faced, right? So there's part of that as well that comes into play. So I'm really torn on it. I'll tell you this. If they beat the Dodgers, they go to the World Series. But they could just as easily lose to the Dodgers and we're done at the NLDS. So, I am really, really torn.
I tend to agree with that, and you're not the only person I've talked to that feels that way. One thing I would say, and I don't have the old betting odds in front of me series by series since the Phillies have been back in the postseason starting in 22, but I would just say this. I know we felt like that 22 team was great, but they were not great, and they were certainly not perceived to be great entering October. And so you go through that series by series, and you have the Cardinals. I believe that they were not favored to win that series in St. Louis. They certainly were not favored to win the series in Atlanta that year. Then you follow that with the Padres. Now, the Padres had home field in that series. I believe that they were favored in that series.
They were.
I may be wrong. I know the Astros were favored in the World Series, and the Astros won it. Point being, the Phillies were not the team to beat in those three series that they won. And then you go to 23, and it's the same thing. Now, they were the Marlins. They were supposed to win that series. But Atlanta, the rematch, not supposed to win it. They were supposed to beat the Diamondbacks and don't. They were supposed to beat the Mets and don't. I guess what I would say is that I like the idea of the Phillies against the Dodgers in that they aren't playing the team that has house money. They aren't playing the team that they are they are superior than. There won't be, I think, added pressure. We can't blow it against these guys. I don't think that psychologically is the absolute end all be all when you evaluate these series. But it feels like when the Phillies are absolutely supposed to do something deeper in the playoffs, they haven't been great at it. And so I kind of like the idea that they'll more than likely not be thought of as the underdog in that series. And I think that they tend to play better in that scenario. So we'll see. I will tell you, Phillies Dodgers, if you're you must wager and your life depended on it, I would take LA.
Yeah.
But I would not be stunned if the Phillies won that series, and I then would be stunned if they were knocked out from there. And despite everything I just said, they will be the better team in every series there on out. And that includes whoever you get out of the AL, who they would have home field advantage against as well.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
I mean, you get through this first series, I think you win the World Series. I just that you said it was the thing that everyone felt great, 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers in LA. And I said, I don't know, man. They looked like dog shit against Los Angeles starters, and that scares me.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to reserve the pick until Friday, till Friday's show, because I want to watch the Dodgers.
Yeah, I want to watch them play this week. I want to see how their pitching lines up. I want to see if someone gets hurt. I'm certainly not rooting for that, but let's see what it looks like when the series actually comes together. But right now on Monday, I'm looking at this and going yeah, I'd probably like LA, but we'll see.
Yep, and the team. So if I had to pick the World Series now today, I'll probably go Dodgers Mariners.
Okay.
I could reserve the right to change my mind after watching the Dodgers play the Reds.
You don't like Jeff Hoffman closing out the last out of the World Series for the Blue Jays?
The Blue Jays are playing some good baseball and whatever, but I think that they have too much familiarity with the
best odds, I think, coming in right now. So
I think when you cut it down again in the playoffs, it's not about the full roster. It's about your 9 hitters and your 8 best pitchers.
Yeah. Well, who can win the World Series of these teams in the field right now? The Phillies, the Dodgers.
Phillies, Dodgers,
The Mariners. I mean, if you have them,
Yankees, Mariners. That's what I think are the four. And I don't think the Yankees are, and I really don't think that they're good enough, to be honest with you. But so like Detroit. I mean, Detroit's the other team that's, to me, if they get their head on straight at the plate, that they could do it. Yeah, no, I think that
that would be an all timer. I mean, after that collapse and then to regroup and make a World Series run.
Yeah, I know.
Man,
it's to me, it's so disappointing that who I think are the two best teams are going to play each other in the division series.
Yeah,
and one of them is going to get knocked out, and then it's. I think that the other team goes to the. So that's the thing. I think this is it. I think this is the big thing. Obviously, you got to beat whoever's in front of you, but the Dodgers are Waterloo, man. Like that's what it is. You beat the Dodgers, the path is open. Maybe even better path than it was with the Diamondbacks in a lot of ways. Like it's a more open path for you. Okay, if you beat the Dodgers in the division series.
If the Phillies had Zach Wheeler in this Dodger series, this theoretical looming Dodger series, would that shift the pendulum?
Yes.
Is that how you say that? Shift the pendulum.
The pendulum would swing the other way. Yes, I would pick the Phillies at that point with Wheeler. With not having Wheeler, I mean, look, I think that the Phillies have the starting pitching to kind of. Yes, you pointed out the Dodgers hit lefties, but it's not like they kill lefties.
Yeah,
right. They hit them better than anybody else because they're the Dodgers. But it is the year of the left-handed pitcher. Do you know that this was the lowest batting average and OPS by any, whether you're left-handed or right-handed, by any batters against left-handed pitching in Major League Baseball since the mound was lowered in 1960?
No, I had not heard that, which though makes me kind of go to what Kyle Schwarber did, being even more amazing.
Yes,
setting a single season record against left-handed pitchers in terms of home runs. I mean, that's quite the accomplishment under that backdrop.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating, Bob. Like the whole thing is just really, it's if it is in fact the year of the left-handed pitcher, which has been a thing in baseball now that everybody's kind of talking about. If that is the case, then who's got the most left-handed pitching?
Philly should be in good shape for sure.
That's just what it comes. That's what it comes down to, right? I mean, yeah. I don't know.
What just sucks? I mean, I'll just say this, and then we hit one last thing and get out of here. But I want to be in a spot where I'm like, wow, the Phillies, for all of they're done. They blew it. The window was shut. Came back and they won 96 games in a season. And they are well positioned in terms of betting odds and all of this stuff to win a World Series. And I want to come on this show and be like, I'm all in. I truly believe that the 25 Phillies are going to finish the job and win the World Series. And I'm excited. Like I'm, as a fan now, fully removed from the reporting part of this. Like I grew up loving the Phillies. I very much care about the Phillies. I want them to win. I want my friends to be happy, my family to be happy. Like I'm nervous. Like I would be in front of any playoff series, but I cannot get myself to a place where I say I fully believe that this team's going to do it. And I want to. Like I want to get on here and be like rah rah, like let's go. Like, but I'm just kind of like, yeah, I could see it. I would not be surprised, but I don't have that gut feeling like they're going to go do this.
Sometimes you need to get past that first series to have the buy-in, right? I mean, and I think that's where we are with the Phillies this year. Like, and this kind of relates back.
Have you been able to do that historically? Like, I'll tell you, like, not that this is like some genius take. I think a lot of people probably felt this way, but when the Eagles last year went to Baltimore and won, it was later in the year, but it wasn't like week 16. I was like, they're probably going to win the Super Bowl. Like I felt it in my gut at that point that they were going to win the Super Bowl. I've never once this season been like, this feels like a World Series team. And that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that you have to feel that way in order for it to happen. But it's always been my experience at some point along the way that you feel like that team can do it. And I mean, I feel like they can, but like I don't really think they can.
Right. But if they go ahead and beat the Dodgers.
Yeah, I'm sure Because you would have to watch like Magic. Not that it requires Magic to beat the Dodgers, but like you'd watch a huge home run or someone in the bullpen get a huge out, or Bryson Stott hit a ball into a gap and score 2 runs in the 8th to give the Phillies a 3. Like, and then you absorb that, and then you go, okay, now I feel it. Sure, yeah. Like if the Phillies get through the Dodgers, I'm sure at that point I'll say like they're going to win the World Series.
Yeah, right. So if they beat the Dodgers, then you're in, right?
Yeah.
And I think the rest of the city is the same way too.
Yeah.
I think everybody's going the same way. Everybody's looking at it. And if the Phillies had caught Milwaukee, let's just say things conspired at the end of the weekend that they would have passed Milwaukee and they would have been the number 1 seed. But I don't think that the buy-in would come after the first round. Like, let's say you beat the Cubs or the Padres and advance to the NLCS. People will be excited, but I still think that there would be the looming, but they can't beat the Dodgers. They can't beat the Dodgers, right? Like, I think it would be different. I think the Dodgers are that team this year.
Yeah.
That the fans feel like the Phillies have to get past, and if they do, then we're in. Then we think they can win the whole thing.
Yeah, I
so
think that's right. All right, here we go. One last thing we got.
One last thing, Bob. And this is I'm going to be the curmudgeon a little bit again today, but I'm going to throw this out to you. This year, Major League Baseball averaged 29,471 fans per game. Last year, they averaged 29,568 fans per game. So it's down 0.3%. Now, because some of that is affected by weather, single gate doubleheaders, changes things a little bit. On the whole, they drew 71.41 million fans, which is actually a 0.1% increase.
Okay.
Right, overall on total numbers, but the average per game is down slightly. Over the last 3 years, with the changes in the game and all the rule changes and the speed ups and everything else that they've thrown into baseball, the whole idea was that this was supposed to be an influx of new fans. Fans were going to flock to baseball because they were going to make all these changes. We're now 3 years into this experiment, and it's about the same. So does baseball, just because they got a very, very slight 0.1% increase on total attendance, do they take the victory lap? Or do they sit there and go, maybe we were wrong that all these changes were what was needed? Because if you look at it, the offense isn't up. Like, the offense hasn't improved with all these. All these changes were supposed to make the offense improve, and it hasn't.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, if anything else, I think that it's forced teams to lean harder on velocity pitching, even at the detriment of injuries that are related to it, because it prevents that hitting from succeeding. And we've got a lesser version of the game, even though they were trying to make it better. That's my thought on it. And it's, again, I'm going to be the old man curmudgeon with that. Want to get your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would have to see the television numbers, because I don't think that the in-person attendance alone is fully indicative of like the way it's trending. Too, within that, I want to see the demographics of, like, in terms of age. Like, is this are we starting to see more people in their 20s, more people in their teens engage with the sport? What does their social media and brand engagement look like? I mean, these are things that these sports are looking at just as much, if maybe even not more, than the in-person component. So I think those are all things that you take into consideration. But I kind of do agree with you, and we are probably in the minority here. Like, I know a lot of people think that the game is much better to consume, like much better, and they appreciate that a game can end in 2 hours and 4 minutes, and like that. On certain nights, I appreciate that too. But I do feel like some of these changes have been made, and they haven't necessarily been the difference makers they were intended to be. One thing, like, as you were starting to kind of go off and talk about like velocity and the quality of the game, like, it just is not special. I mean, as much as we all like the Phillies' new closer in the entrance, and he's been pretty good, he's helped them get to this point. He might even help them win a World Series. Like, you watch him pitch and you go, oh, 101, 102. It's like, it's not special. It's not a special event to watch a guy throw 101 miles an hour. I think it's kind of commonplace. And that's why you have one guy in the National League hit 300 this year.
Yeah.
That to me is, I'm not a guy that like gets off to like, oh, he hit 327, like Tony Gwynn, like that's great, but like I don't need to have 20 guys be 350 hitters. But at some point, like, yeah, like shooting a ball through a hole and going first to third, like to me, that's the sport. It's not just home run, home run, home run, home run. And the game has now arrived at this place where, and I don't know that's ever going back. So
no, it's probably not.
I do not think that the quality of the sport now is better. I mean, I think the players are better and they're much more physically gifted now. But I don't think that the quality of the actual game itself is better than it was 20, 30 years ago, more like when I was a kid before the steroids and all that stuff. Well, the steroid era, late 90s. But yeah, man, I mean, like, I don't know. I think that the jury's still out on that. I think that I would have guessed that baseball has seen a lot of positive increases in other metrics. But yeah, the in-person.
Yeah. It hasn't. Now, two quick comments that came up also this conversation.
This is not wrong.
Chris points out ticket prices, inflation. There are other reasons why folks are not going to games. 1,000%. I agree with that.
True. I mean, you go order whatever, but you go order a pizza and have it delivered and it's $29 and you're like, okay, like you have to make decisions about how you're going to spend your money. And maybe going to a baseball game and spending $160 isn't it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that the face value of the playoff tickets went up. I think it was $26 from last year.
Really?
Or maybe it was from 2 years ago. Wow. I think it was from 2 years ago. Because 2 years ago, the first round was $95. This year, they're 100 with the ticketing fee. It's like 121.
I'm curious to see what the resale markets will look like later in the week, especially if we have nice weather. I have not looked at the weather yet.
It looks like it's supposed to be okay on Saturday.
It's beautiful right now, 74 and sunny. I hope they play at 6 o'clock and not 4 o'clock.
Well, if it's the Dodgers, it'll be the night game.
Would it be, or because you have? I think the Mariners would be on the West Coast at
but they would start. Yeah, they would start at like 9 o'clock. So it'll be 7. The Phillies will be at 6.
Yeah, the Phillies, if they play the Dodgers, will be like almost guaranteed at 6 o'clock, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
The Mariners play the late game at 9.
Yeah. And then this comment from Robert says, get rid of the Marlins and the two teams playing in minor league stadiums and the average will go up. The one thing I will say to that is that those two teams playing in the minor league stadiums, their attendance actually went up from what they were getting in the major league stadiums, the average, just to point out. So, but the Marlins are the Marlins. But anyway, Chris has already done some research on this. He says 130 for NLDS, 170 for NLCS, 335 for the World Series.
And if Phillies get to the World Series and you don't have the ticket and you have to go on the market, you're going to be in the door at 650. That's a lot of money to watch baseball.
It's a lot of money for sure. Well, that's it for us for today. We'll be sitting there watching the wild card series, just like you. We'll be watching all the games. This is like my favorite these days when you have 4 games going at the same time. This rivals March Madness for me. Like I just sit there and watch baseball all day. It's awesome. So I'm really looking forward to that this week. Watch some wild card baseball, and then Friday we'll be back to talk about Phillies and probably the Dodgers, but it could be the Reds. Anyway, Bob and I will be here on Friday to break it all down and to give you an actual prediction on the series. So just wanted to thank you all for tuning in to today's episode of Fighting Words. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, wherever you get your podcast. Best place right here. YouTube. Click that thumbs up, ring the bell. Make sure you never miss a show. We go live. You'll get an alert on your phone or your device, whatever device you're watching on, and you'll know Bob and I are here to talk Phillies for an hour. So you can, if you're listening in the podcast feed and you want to find it, it's youtube.com/@fightingwords. For Bob Wankel, I'm Anthony Sanfilippo saying thanks for tuning in, everyone. Have a great week of wild card baseball, and we will see you on Friday.